Hi, welcome to Video Waves. I'm your host, Deborah Waslick. You know, people have been drinking coffee for over 400 years, but in the past couple of years, we've seen coffee become more than just a drink. It's actually the focal point that people are gathering around in something called coffee houses. And we're fortunate today to have with us on the program someone who owns one of these coffee houses, the popular gathering spot found in Coopersburg called the Cappuccino Coop. And I'd like to welcome Bob Ebert to our program today. Hi,
Thank
Bob.
you. Glad to be here.
Great. And we also have Brian Hinkle. Now, Brian has performed at a number of different coffee houses around the area, and we'll be talking to him about what his visits have shown him. You know, I was surprised to find that the first use of the word coffee house goes back to 1614, over 300 years ago. And at that time, it was an establishment where people could gather together to share coffee and some other refreshments, and to commonly serve as an informal club for regular customers. Well, you know, Bob, I'd like to ask you, in the past 300 years, some changes may have taken place. There are probably people who are watching who have never been to a coffee house. I know I haven't been to one in years and years. Can you tell me, if I was to come to the Cappuccino Coop, what could I expect to find?
Well, the biggest comment we seem to get is that it's homey. It's done up in some antiques, and there's a living room arrangement. And we wanted people to feel welcome. We want people to come and stay, not to get coffee and go. Homey seems to describe our place. It smells great to walk into a coffee shop as well. But it's a place for people to come and to stay. It's not fast food. Some of the espresso-based drinks take some work. But it's a very inviting place, and a place that you'd like to stay, or that's what we'd like it to be.
Can you tell me, why did you start the Cappuccino Coop? What was your motivation? I know that you know, there are now coffee places all over the United States that are getting very, very popular, but what actually drew you and your wife Lisa, I believe you said, to start this establishment in a small town like Coopersburg?
Well, we've watched the trend, and we've frequented them ourselves in the Allentown, Bethlehem area, and as well when we are on vacation. And we wanted to provide a place for the youth, college-age kids, high school kids, to be able to gather, express themselves in some of the arts, in music, and we have a gallery area. And having a teenage daughter ourselves, we just are sensitive to that need in the community, and we thought Coopersburg would be ready for it, and we're finding out I think they are.
That's great. So do you have different programs on different evenings, or tell me about the people that I might expect to see there on any given night of the week? Who comes?
Well, on a Friday and Saturday night, the entertainment is there. It's usually a folk music, acoustic guitar, something a little mellow, but it is primarily teens, young people, college-age kids. During the week, during lunch hours, early evening hours, you'll see more of a middle-aged group come in. And we try to cater to both and make both feel welcome, and we've had considerable success doing that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned some folk music, things of that nature. Brian, I believe you had said that you used to go to coffee houses and you used to read poetry. Is that correct?
Right.
Tell me what you saw when you went there. What did you enjoy about going to a coffee house?
For me, it was just kind of a place where I could vent. I'm not necessarily the most vocal person. I wasn't at that point anyway. And I was new to the area as well, so I didn't know a lot of people. So it was somewhere I could go and meet some people and express myself in some manner, you know, be it just, you know, getting up there and reading some things that I had, you know, jotted down thoughts and whatnot. You know, you could call it poetry or, or you know, prose or whatever.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of room for expression at these different coffee houses. Now, you visited a number of different ones that are found around the Lehigh Valley. Okay. Does each one have its own unique flavor or own kind of interior design, or?
I think most of the places are each one definitely is different. You have different people who frequent each one, and I think that makes up, you know, the core of everything that the coffee house is. It's just, you know, the people who go out to each one, you'll find, you know, a different clique, so to speak, of people at each one, you know, and each type of, you know, like one coffee house you might have more people there who are in the poetry, and so things like that would be more common. And at other ones, they're, you know, the music might be more popular, or it just might not even be anything necessarily. They might just be sitting around, you know, having fun, talking.
So from what you've seen, and Bob, you said that you had been to a number of different locations. It might be that if you go to one coffee house, you might have the opportunity to visit another one, and they'll have their own distinct personalities. So even if it wasn't exactly to your taste, but you kind of liked it, you might want to continue to search throughout the Lehigh Valley at a number of different places and find one that suits your exact style.
Above the ceiling, we heard a sigh, watering a seed of perverse curiosity. I turn down the television and look up as if possessing X-ray vision, intently fixing ears upon the 5 vowels being drawn from her mouth, slowly first, then quickening as if she'd just run a race. Oh baby, let me set the 2nd floor on fire again if that's the way you'll scream. So empty and shallow while you cry out for unachievable depth because you know he's a moron and you're just a sap with a Big Mac attack. Oh baby, I'll burn down that mailbox outside that picket fence without a home. Cause you know this ain't no ghetto, still your guy's packing heat between his teeth. What world do you think you're living in? Above the ceiling, the moan becomes a cry as he leaves you behind. I turn on the television and grab a cigarette as if I was through, intent upon making my lungs explode the way your head just did.
You said you catered to young people especially. I found that very interesting, and particularly on the weekends, it provides them with a place to go. What do the young people get out of the experience?
Well, they don't want to leave, so they must be getting something out of it. You know, we provide all kinds of games as well. There's chess, there's checkers, there's cards, several decks of cards, and we're on an area that there are 2 different school districts, and I'd have to say we're probably getting more high school kids now than we have been college age because of the holidays and that. But they seem to get along well. We've seen a lot of friendships develop between people that wouldn't have known each other unless they'd come into our shop. And it's just a neat bunch of kids. A lot of these kids would be perhaps misjudged or misunderstood by another establishment or an older group of people, and yet you bring these kids in and they're just neat. It's a whole lot different than it was when I was a kid, it seems. It's a good group of kids, and they enjoy themselves and they're respectful, and yet I believe they might be the same group of kids that would be rejected at a different type of establishment.
So coffee houses are for all ages, because I know I was talking to someone and they had gone to a coffee house and there was some senior citizens there who were playing guitar and reading poetry and just expressing themselves. And then you have the people who stop for breakfast, perhaps for a quick cup of coffee, and to go out into the world and face all the troubles that are out there, a nice, calm, refreshing spot to start the day. And then there's something for teenagers, which I think could be a big void, especially in the Lehigh Valley, where your choices are kind of going to one of the malls, or perhaps going to a more positive location where they can mix in with some friends and some people that they normally wouldn't get to meet from other school districts. If I was, say, a youth leader, and I thought this would be a great place to take my youth group on one of the nights, how would I get in touch with you, or what would I do to arrange perhaps a special night for our particular youth group to visit the Cappuccino Coop?
It'd just be a matter of contacting Lisa or myself and giving us a little bit of lead time, but we would definitely make provisions and work with you on most early in the week nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're a little more difficult to to set up for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because of the music. But definitely we welcome groups, small groups, clubs, that kind of thing.
And you know, Brian said that he would go around and perform. And do you have that kind of setup at the Cappuccino Coop, where people can come in and perhaps, if they like to perform, do you have an opportunity for them to do that?
Yes, we have what would be called an open mic night, and we've had poetry readings, story readings, improvisational comedy. It's available to any kind of expression, and we really don't have a problem. Now, we won't let anything profane or you know, pornographic get out, but we really haven't had that problem. But we're pretty open to anything.
Now, of course, we're all familiar with the basic get up in the morning and drink your cup of coffee, but what do you serve there in the way of beverages or things to eat, and what are commonly found at the coffee houses that you've had a chance to visit?
Well, what you'll find at our shop is coffee, of course, and then the espresso machine, which is the base for all your the drinks that you see so popular today: the cappuccino, the latte, the Vienna, the mocha. We also have cold drinks. We also make Italian sodas, which has a flavored syrup and a seltzer water. We make steamers, which is a hot froth milk, the same you'd see in a cappuccino, but without the caffeine in the coffee and with the syrup flavor instead. We also offer baked goods, bagels, Danish, pies, light lunch, soup, that kind of thing.
That's great. Brian, would you say that that's what you've seen at other coffee houses that you've gone through?
Almost every coffee house has, you know, a similar, you know, lineup of baked goods, and as well as, you know, coffees. And what I've noticed at each one, though, I mean, each thing is going to be different, though. The drinks are different. I mean, I'll even go to the same place, and whoever makes it, I'll notice, like, I mean, there are people who I don't necessarily want to make my drinks because I know it's not going to be as good as, you know, when, you know, whoever else is there.
You won't have that problem at our place.
No, Bob, I'm sure, has only exceptional drinks at his.
But everything does, I mean, it's still distinct. Each one's still distinct.
And what happens to be your particular favorite beverage at a coffee house?
It would be a vanilla cafe latte.
Okay. Now, the latte refers to milk. Okay, and because I'm used to just pouring in regular cream, but they serve it up frothed and warmed and all kinds of things. In my research, I found, I was sharing this with Bob earlier, that the word cappuccino refers to the color of the coffee, because cappuccino comes with milk in it, which turns it a distinct color brown, and that is actually named after a friar or a monk who belongs to the Capuchin order. Just a little tidbit thrown in.
To all the people lusted after, face of beauty, heart of laughter, friendships made and torn asunder, days of joy and nights of wonder. Times both good and bad we're here, backgammon, brew, and smoke and tears. We will mourn its loss, my friends, till we say goodbye, farewell, amen.
It has no taste of the distillation, it is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed, whispers, love roots, silk thread, crouch and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves in the old shore and the dark-colored sea rocks and the hay in the barn. The sounds and the belched words of my voice loosened to the eddies of the wind. A few light kisses and a few embraces, a reaching around of arms. The play of shine and shade on the trees and the supple bow wag. The delight alone or in rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides. The feeling of health, the full noon trail, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced long enough to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day.
what I'd like to know also is when people go there, are they encouraged? As you said, Bob, earlier, some of these drinks take a while. When people go, do they expect to spend an evening, a couple of hours? Is this universal at these types of
Most
places?
people that I've seen when I go, they make plans to go to the coffee house. Oftentimes I go to a place almost like on a weekly basis, and we expect to be there for a few hours, and it's usually the only time I even see this particular group of people that I go with, and we just sit around and talk, and it sometimes, it does take some time to make the coffee or whatever, but it's pretty relaxed. I don't really see a lot of people who go in, to just grab a coffee and leave, although they can do that, but most times, especially in the evening hours.
Okay, and Bob, you said that you're open during the day and that you have a lot of women who come in to spend some time together.
It seems to become a meeting place. We would have a woman come in and say, so-and-so is meeting me here, and they'll sit for some time, even over just one drink. And it's kind of neat to see them feeling comfortable, sitting there, conversing, doing whatever it is they do, and feeling like they're at home.
I can say when you go in with a friend and you just want to spend some time with somebody, there's a waitress who's coming back and checking on you every 10 minutes, and it does become very difficult to have a visit, if you were. And you did mention that you have set it up for a homey kind of atmosphere, so I would assume that this is one of the things that you were really trying to do, was encourage people to come and do something we don't get a chance to do in the 90s, which is just sit down and have a conversation.
Exactly.
From a business standpoint, why did you choose to not become involved with one of the major chains that are springing up? Because yours is owned and operated by you and your wife. Why did you choose to do that?
Well, the primary reason is that to get involved with a major chain takes major money, and we did this. We opened it up after spending months at auctions and researching and going to other shops, and we have very little money into it, which we find is a good thing because it's not a high profit business without a great volume. Maybe we'll see that someday. We're just not seeing it right now.
So you did it primarily to have a business that could stay in the family because you and your wife did it, and also to have something that's local in Coopersburg.
Yeah, like I said, I have a teenage daughter, and now she has some place to go. My wife was talking about going to work to help, and this gives her something to do. And we thought it would be fun, and it has been fun. Even if it's not been profitable, it has been fun.
Well, I think everybody could use more fun right now. Do you see people stopping off maybe after work to kind of decompress for a little bit and then heading out, or is it mostly an evening type of crowd where they come in and plan to stay, a destination as opposed to a stopping off place? What would you say?
There's a certain amount of to-go business. We're situated next to a dance school and a hairdresser, and there's a lot of this drop-off traffic, and we do see some considerable to-go business, but I say the in-house come and sit is really that we see more of.
But even those fancy drinks, they can get them to go if they want.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All righty, that's excellent.
We can make anything to go, and we can make anything in decaf.
Oh, boy, that's even the espressos and all the fancy
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. And how much would you say, when people come in, just for comparison, how many drink your plain cup of coffee and how many are a little more adventurous and go into some of the fancier drinks?
The fancier drinks are much more popular. We throw more coffee away than we do sell it. I'd say there's 1 cup of coffee sold to 10, 15 cups of cappuccino, latte, mocha, that kind of thing.
Now, one thing we haven't touched on too much, but are these things expensive? I mean, if I were to go to a coffee house, Brian, from what you've seen visiting in the area, and also Bob, what could I expect that these drinks would cost?
It's more expensive, obviously, than just going into McDonald's, say, and grabbing, a 60-cent coffee or something like that. Depending on the size, too, I said before I like the cafe lattes. Those, I usually get like a 16 ounce, and I think that's usually around $2, $2.30 something. So, I mean, it's a little higher priced. It's a better drink. You're also, you know, and it's big. Usually it will take you a while to get that down. So it's really not that expensive. And again, you're in a relaxed atmosphere where you're not rushed around. No one's expecting you to necessarily even buy another drink or anything else. So,
Bob, is that about what they run down there for you?
Yeah, $2 to $3, depending on the size and what's involved in the drink. If you add a syrup, there's a charge for that because the syrups are quite expensive. But we only offer 2 sizes, a small and a grande. But I believe he's right on the money with a latte around $2.10, something like that.
Well, that's a pretty reasonable evening, though, if you go through 1 or 2 of those and get some entertainment.
It's a lot cheaper than, you know, going out to almost anywhere else. And, I mean, you go to a diner or something else, you end up, you know, coughing out $4 or $5 just to sit there almost, you know. But at a coffee house, again, it's a lot more inexpensive.
Stop this day and night with me, and you shall assume the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second hand or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters and books. You should not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sighs and filter them from yourself. The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yap over the roofs of the world. The last scud of days hold back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any of the shadowed wilds, it coaxes me to the vapor in the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drift in the lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you.
I was frightened about getting up, but after my friends had left, I decided to stay on. I felt inspired. I got up, and I did one of my poems. I was frightened about how it would be reacted to, but afterwards, Jim, our current host, Armando, and Steph came up and all told me how fabulous it was, which was a tremendous boost in my life. Ever since then, I've been coming down every Wednesday night.
It's kind of funny. Originally we had 2 people reading for about 3 weeks, and we started getting in the papers, and suddenly everyone started coming, and we created something very beautiful. And Thoreau said, if you have built your castles in the air, do not despair. Now just build your foundations under them. And I think this is what we're doing with the closing of Jack's. I think a lot of people have made their castles, and it's time they start building their foundations. So,
the poetry night has meant a lot to me. We just found out that Jack's is closing down, and this is going to be our last poetry night. I composed something for this night because since Monday I've been in denial. This has been a major part of my life, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my artistic outlet after here.
Snow may fall in any season. Does every thought require a reason? By lying still, the need to know is answered by the falling snow.
So no matter how you felt, if you were ecstatic, if you were morose, suicidal, or rapturous, you always had a place to come, and you always had a place where people would listen.
Well, I think we've learned quite a bit about coffee houses. Is there anything else that perhaps either of you would like to add that would encourage someone? I mean, is it intimidating to walk into one of these places? I mean, I've never been to one. Is it? Should I bring somebody when I come, or is it a friendly atmosphere? What would you say is the best way to do this?
The first time I went with somebody. I was kind of nervous, just about, I mean, that's just like any kind of social atmosphere. You might be a little nervous as you're walking in, but I think after you take some time and sit down, that it'll kind of grow on you.
Okay. And how about you, Bob? Do you see people mostly coming in with in pairs or groups, or meeting someone, as you expressed earlier,
Yeah,
with the women?
definitely they come with someone, and it is it is somewhat intimidating if you're not familiar with the espresso-based drinks. You go in, you look at the blackboard full of everything. We have a pictorial chart that shows the breakup of the different drinks, and it's a matter of just giving it a try. Once you try something like a cappuccino, you'll find regular coffee doesn't cut it anymore. It's a more robust, flavorful cup of coffee. It's a treat. It's more than just a cup of coffee. It's definitely a treat.
Have you found that with all the cold weather and the blizzards that we've been having, has that had any positive effect on your business? More people craving something hot and delicious to soothe their winter-worn souls?
Yeah, I suppose winter is the ideal time to open a coffee shop up, which is what we did. It was November when we opened up. But being situated on an emergency snow route, it was difficult because of the parking. But there are those, when you're a faithful coffee or cappuccino drinker, nothing will keep you from coming.
Okay. And where exactly, based on the information that you've given, it sounds like a really great place to visit. Can you give us some more specific information on where exactly we can find you?
Well, we're in Center City, Coopersburg, which is one street. It's Main Street, and there's a big sign, and you'll see us if you go down Main Street in Coopersburg. And if you do go down that way, stop in.
That's great. Well, it sounds like we've discovered a great new destination for the Lehigh Valley, and we thank you very much, both of you, for visiting and giving us some insight into a new place to go in the Lehigh Valley, and that's the coffee house, the Cappuccino Coop, which is located in Coopersburg. Thank you very much for joining us today on Video Waves.
I love the Jive and it loves me.
It's kind of like an infomercial.
That's what I was just thinking.
Jive and me, a cup, boy. I love Jive, sweet and hot. Oops, missed them all, so I'm a coffee pot. Shoot me the pot, and I'll pour me a shot. A cup. Shoot me a slug, that wonderful muggle. I could rub like a buck in a jug. Slice of onion and a raw one. Yeah, raw one. Waiter, percolate.